Jay Finning here, and I want to tell you guys about 4 Wheel Online. For over a decade, 4 Wheel Online has been bringing the best truck accessories and truck parts to enhance the appearance and performance of all trucks and SUVs. They are dedicated to providing an extensive range of upgrades that will match any maker model on the road. Their truck products cover everything you need to give your truck a custom look and added functionality. And if you need a tire and wheel package, head over and use the configuration tool. They carry all the major brands of wheels and tires, so go get outfitters today. So visit them online at 4Wheel Online or call them at 813-769-2451. Again, that's 4Wheel Online, the number 4 Wheel Online. This is the Hard Parking Podcast, Other Side of the Wheel, brought to you by Right Honda out of Scottsdale, Arizona. In studio with me today is friend of the show, relatively new listener, and actually the winner of the shirt, Mr. Drew Bunk. Did I call you Bunk or Bunkley? Bunkley.
Bunkley's good. Drew Bunk is just my short tag for my Instagram and stuff.
Well, thanks for coming into the studio, and thanks for being a listener to the show. Want to get into some of the things that you have going on. You're also the social media highlight of the week, and that is brought to you by the Cell Shop. Cell Shop is an Arizona-based retailer that strives to be your destination of choice for wireless services. Visit them at cellshop.us at cellshop.us. So, welcome to the Hard Parking Podcast studios.
Thanks, Jay. Really appreciate being out here.
You've also been really good at jumping on and really participating, contributing to our One Drink Wednesdays that I do with Wes Tankersley. So, that's been really good to have you on there. So your Instagram handle is C8 Matrix, and you're on your second C8 Corvette?
Correct. Yep.
So tell us what you have parked outside right now and why, and then we're going to get into why the C8 is so special to you, because it is a badass car.
Yeah, I'm loving the car. I've got a 21 C8. It's the HTC hardtop convertible Z51 2LT. It's a shadow gray. The first one was a ceramic matrix, and that's how the
Matrix, got it.
The IG tag came.
Ceramic matrix.
Ceramic matrix gray was the first car.
I wonder where they come up with. Like, wouldn't it be nice to have a job just naming colors?
I'm telling you,
right?
Because this shadow gray looks blue.
It does have a kind of a bluish look to it, although it's like slate, right? Is it slate kind of because it's a natural color? It kind of has a blue, like a super dark grayish blue. And then the interior is that, it's not white.
It's called cool gray.
Okay.
Yep.
But it almost looks white in contrast to the dark gray.
Right. Yeah. It's a real light gray, light interior. I purposely got that in the first car, which I built because the Arizona heat. So I want the lighter car, lighter interior, just to keep the vehicle cool. You're
the general manager at Fountain Hills Motorsports?
GM Fountain Hills Motorsports. I'm also a licensed wholesaler. So I own my own business, plus I run somebody else's.
There you go.
I get to use his money and play with his money during the week.
There you go. Tell the listeners about your fascination for the C8.
So I've always loved C8s. Corvettes, I should say. Growing up, uncles, had the Corvettes. I had a neighbor had a split window. So I got my first Corvette, which was a C6 in 2008, and had that car out here. I shipped it from Atlanta, where I was living at the time, moved here, loved it, always have been a Corvette fan, and I was pretty much looking at getting a C7. You have to understand, though, I drive these cars all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I buy them to sell at work. So that's like the car that I drive when, I'm taking the weekend or taking something to a car show. I try to do the car meetups, the cars for coffees. So I'll usually drive a Corvette. And it just made sense when this vehicle came out, just the, everything that was being said about the hype, you couldn't even drive one. I got my first one and had never driven one. So I knew what I wanted, though. Just
sure.
Yeah. Just knowing cars, reading the reviews, seeing the specs. So it was really, to me, just a fascination with the vehicle.
So go back to the C6. What did you have? Was it the Stingray, the Grand Sport, the Z06, the ZR1?
I didn't have that much money back then. I had a base Corvette. I bought it brand new. It was $50,000, and probably got a discount because the dealer had a ton of them on the lot. And yeah, it was just a base Corvette, had the T-tops. But when you're in a Corvette, it's a Corvette.
Right. What color was it?
It was the orange color, atomic orange.
Well, that's a beautiful color.
It was awesome.
There's a few of them around. There were a few of them around. A couple guys had, I think one was a Z06, or maybe they both were Z06s.
Right. It was when I bought that car, they had a ZL1 on the showroom. And that was a fascination of me, with that glass hood.
Right.
And that engine showing,
Yep.
that supercharger up front. So when they put it in the mid-engine and put the glass back there, it just took it to another level.
I got to tell you, so with regards to skipping the C7, the C8's growing on me. I don't think it's ugly. I've talked about it a few times in past shows for the last couple of years. It's got some weird angles. But for me, the C7, specifically like a C7 Z06, when I see it rolling down the road, still to this day, I'm like, damn good looking car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't care for the super aggressive styling of the ZR1 version of it. But I'll also admit that when the C8 was coming out, I probably, along with millions of others or hundreds of thousands of others, said, why are people rushing to get this car? It's a badass car, but there's going to be like 50 of them on every lot. Now, I don't know if it's because of the chip shortage that we'll talk about later or what, but that is definitely not the case.
Yeah, they're impossible to get. I mean, I'm in line for 2 more, but I'm 12 to 18 months out.
That's insane. But that's cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, shit, they're getting ready to, was it delayed? They're still calling it the Z06, like the next version up. Has it been delayed? I think.
No, so they're announcing the official pricing,
Mhm.
I believe, next week.
Okay.
Sometime this month. The Z06 is due out in 2023.
Okay.
So not next year production, the year after. And they're also coming out with the E-Ray, which is really the car I want, which is
Is that the hybrid?
It's the hybrid. All-wheel drive.
So that's the one where they're actually sharing technology with Honda or Acura. Have you seen that?
I need to check it out.
Yeah, so that's, so I had a friend of mine, Nathan Robertson, was on here, and the first time he was on, or maybe it was the second time, I'm trying to think of how the studio was situated, but we were talking about it. And he said, I wouldn't be surprised if the NSX was going away because it's a Halo car and they used it for its technology and it's being put in everything else. And he was 100% right. And he had brought up the fact that, I don't remember if he said Honda or Acura. I mean, it's kind of the same, but they're still kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
If they had some exchanges with GM, and I'm pretty sure that because there's a photo that surfaced online with a NC1 is what we call the new NSX, the NC1 next to the E-Ray, and the E-Ray is actually borrowing some of the technology off the NSX.
It would make sense.
That's what they've been saying.
Because it's going to be all-wheel drive. It's going to have the hybrid assist. So to drive the front wheels. And that's really, everyone's focused on the Z06 for the raw power.
Sure.
But I've already called my dealers. I've got deposits in. I said, listen, let me know when the E-Ray, is available for deposit. I want to be like first for that at this store. Everyone wants the Z06. I'd rather wait for that.
Let's switch gears. Talk a little bit about you and your history. How long have you been in Arizona?
First came to Arizona in '89. Actually graduated high school at Saguaro.
Okay. And then you left and came back because
Right.
you said you came from Atlanta with the C6?
I've been all around. So, yeah, I'm originally from Michigan, Detroit.
Oh, where about? Okay, Detroit.
Yep.
Okay.
We left there when I was 12, moved
Right.
to Syracuse, New York, upstate. My stepfather's a car dealer,
Okay.
so he was a new car franchise owner. We moved to Syracuse, and then in '89, we came here to Scottsdale, and my stepfather had 3 car dealerships on Bell Road back in the early '90s. So that was a fun time. It was Scott, Olds, Buick, and Isuzu, and since then, he's retired, and I've just kind of carried things on. But yeah, I lived in Atlanta for a while, had a couple stores there, general manager at some large franchise stores, and this is really home. My mom lives here, my stepfather's still here, so been back and forth mainly between here and Atlanta.
So you've seen a lot of things. Like, what are some of the big differences? And I ask a lot of people this about the car scene specifically. Like, how would you describe the difference? And here's the one thing that a lot of casual car people, and even people who aren't into cars, they think that every car person is the same. And there are absolutely subcultures of the car community. I had described it once as walking into this giant building, like a giant mall, like the biggest Costco in the world. And then on the outside it says car community.
Mm-hmm.
You walk in the door, and there's a ton of different places to go where people do things different. So whether you have the donks, or you have the stance, you have I forgot what we were calling in the last episode, where the wheels are bowed out. You have the people that the more chrome you can get, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the people that the less chrome you can get, like the Concourse, like the Fountain Hills event that they have every year. Where have you been along that line? Where do you identify, just to kind of play with a current theme here? What do you identify as in the car community?
So I am into the performance cars, and I don't do a lot of modifications. Because I'm a reseller,
mm-hmm.
you have to understand, I don't change my cars much. So when it comes to doing modifications on the vehicles, I enjoy other people's, but I don't personally do it just because I have limits on what I can do when I'm, with vehicles. My personal cars that I've had, normally,
just getting ready to ask you about that.
Yeah, normally performance-minded cars. And so that's my community. I came up in the Chevy community, had Camaros back in the 90s and stuff like that. And all my friends, they all had remember the W, I think it was a W.
Like a WS6?
The WS6, the Pontiacs,
yep.
the Firebirds.
Yep.
So those were the kind of cars and the kind of people that I hung out with. We drove the muscle cars.
What has been your favorite? This is a very generic question, but what has been your favorite car that you've had? And because of your family and people in your family doing dealerships and things of that nature, before you could even drive, do you have any like cars of your own personal cars, or basically every car you get you kind of enjoy, but it's basically enjoy for a certain amount of time before you sell it and grab something else?
That's the hard part for me, because I do go through a lot of cars. Mostly I'm buying cars for resale.
Mm-hmm.
So I drive a lot of different vehicles, but personally I do like the Corvette that's here now. Yeah, that car is in my name. The one before that I purchased. I just bought my wife an Audi e-tron, which I'm getting fixed up. Cadillac CTS I had, BMW 5 Series. You have to realize though, now my family has shrunk.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are off to college,
sure.
and they're adults now. So prior to that, I always had a four-door sedan. So I would try to get something that had some type of performance, like a CTS,
right?
CTS-V, BMW 550. Those type of vehicles were what I would enjoy driving. I still wanted the power behind me,
mm-hmm.
but still have the luxury. So I was always into the luxury vehicles, whether it was Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Lexus, and getting into the performance-minded vehicles, the coupes, like the Corvette, and the Camaros were something that I had to kind of do on the side, So, I've always enjoyed those type of cars, but I've had a variety of different vehicles, from Bentley GTs.
How are those Bentleys? Are we talking about like the Bentley GT, like the coupe, like the two-door?
Yeah, Bentley GT coupes. They're fun. They're powerful V10s. The worst part about them is driving them and having something hit the windshield. You got a $3,000 glass to replace. So there's some cars that, even though I want to drive them and enjoy them, I'm paranoid to drive them.
Sure.
So I try to keep vehicles, that aren't going to be that. I'm not going to have that much risk involved in. If something gets damaged, it's going to be fairly easy and simple to repair. What
was on your wall growing up? You have car posters?
I did. I was a Knight Rider fan.
So did you eventually get the 80s Trans Am?
I did have one, but I didn't get the light in the front. I always used to want the one that had the digital light going across that front air scoop.
There's a guy with an NSX in California who's done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen it since, but that was always the car I wanted. I actually ended up with the Camaro Z28. which to me was close enough.
So we're talking the 80s, like the IROC style?
Yep.
Yeah, man, boy. I don't know if you were disappointed or not, but the 80s were not a good time for American muscle.
No. Things got smaller, and the Mustangs, they went to 4 cylinders. Yeah, it was not a good look.
The Mustangs, Camaros, and Corvettes were all... I kind of like their look, though. They're kind of sleek still. But, man, that's a car that... Like, you can pull up, I have an NSX, right? You could pull up in some cars, and people will just look at it like, oh, man, that's really cool. But I think if someone pulls up to the car meet in, like, an IROC, and it's not like a good... like, I don't want to say good old boys because that's not a good term. But if it's not an American heritage style car meet, people are kind of look at it a little sideways.
It's funny. I saw a Firebird on the road yesterday coming home, and it had the Ram Air, cold air induction. And I just had to slow down. It was a lady driving. She pulled up next to me, and I just had to admire it. I'm like, man, that thing took me back. But if you remember the Mitsubishi Starion.
Hell yeah, the Starions. Who else? Was it the Supra and the Starion? Like, were almost the same of that generation. They were super boxy.
So they did a joint venture. I believe it was with...
Or Conquest.
I think it was Dodge.
Yeah, there's like a Conquest and a Starion that looked very similar.
So that was one of the cars that I fascinated with. I owned one of those. And the Volkswagen... What was that Volkswagen? The two-door...
Is it Corrado?
Corrado. It's been a while.
Yeah, it was a 90s. It was a 90s darling that was whooping the shit out of every other sport compact car at the time. What car did you fancy that you were not able to get? Like, there's always a car that's just a little bit out of reach. Do you have any of those cars, or you just kind of stayed within, like, where your reach, I guess?
I don't want to say I don't.
Like a slant-nosed Porsche or something, that was just ridiculously priced at the time.
Back then, I'll tell you, I never even looked at exotics like Porsches, and they just weren't in my league. I mean, I was just average Joe. You know what I mean? Trying to pay a $20,000 car loan.
You got to daydream a little bit, man. Like, I subscribed to Road and Track's Exotic Cars Quarterly when I was probably 13 or 14, and so I would just fancy like the Vectors and shit. And then I would always buy a DuPont Registry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was like the rich man's Auto Trader is what I called it.
See, I think for me, obviously I'm fascinated about all those cars, Lamborghini, Ferraris,
right.
Porsches. But I got in the car business selling cars when I was 21. So at that stage in my life, I kind of was just more focused on what manufacturer I worked for.
Right.
At 22, I went and worked for Mercedes-Benz. This was in Syracuse. I was the youngest salesperson there and bought my first Mercedes. And then I got fascinated with the BMWs, like the 8 Series. I had all of a sudden stepped up my clientele to my customer bases were coming from average people like me to doctors and lawyers. And they're pulling in the 8 Series BMW
like the
coupes.
big 850 and stuff. And
Exactly.
those are sweet.
Yep. So, at that point, that was the car that I really always wanted to have.
Never got it?
Never got it.
They're out there. I was looking the other day, and they're kind of all over the place, but man,
yep.
I think you could pick one up for like 20 or 30.
They're probably not that expensive, but I don't care for them now.
Yeah. They look great. Could be a maintenance nightmare. Now, I've said of BMWs, and I don't know if you've experienced this, that they kind of have a short shelf life. And a lot of times they have the same issues year after year after year. Have you seen any of that in what you do?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the BMW, the 7 Series, certain years, that 8-cylinder had a lot of oil leaks and a lot of issues. I go through a lot of different cars when I have everything inspected. So, yeah, I get recommendations from the dealers, from the service departments, what to look for, what to not purchase, and those sort of things. So it's known in the community, those type of vehicles that have certain issues that are prone to those kind of cars.
So there it is right there. Mr. Drew Bunkley letting you guys know he's been doing this shit. Generations they've been dealing with cars. So don't think I'm crazy when I say BMW guys know the truth. And non-BMW guys know the truth. And I like BMWs. Every time they release something, even I'm not really big on the giant grille, but I'm not alone on that. But man, that's a car, especially like the last 5 or 6 years. When you see it rolling down the street, that's an impressive ass looking vehicle too, in my opinion.
Yeah, the M series, that new M4 with the large grill. I don't want to call it the beaver teeth, but that's what
Is that what the people are calling it? I'm
that's
not
what
going to
they're
be able to
calling
unsee
it.
that. Yeah.
But it's a phenomenal car. I mean, the BMW, any of the M series, the M3, M4, M6, M8, yeah, they're awesome cars. When it comes to higher mileage on the vehicle, the thing you have to look at, what I look at when I'm buying cars, is the service,
Mm-hmm.
how that car was maintained.
Right.
Normally, your first
Matters.
owner, yeah, definitely. Normally, your first owner is going to take care of that car because it's under warranty. They've got either they plan on keeping it a while, they may have bought some kind of plan. So the car's regularly in the shop for normal maintenance. It's when it gets to the third and fourth owner, you've got people that couldn't afford a $100,000 car. They're picking it up for 40, but they're not used to maintenance on a $100,000 car.
Right.
It's a huge
The
difference.
total cost of ownership is a bitch.
So,
Want to get into some car news?
what you got?
So I figured having you in here, we could talk a little bit about the chip shortage before we give you an opportunity to kind of plug your social media and then the random thought of the week and get out of here. So how is that affecting, does that affect your specific dealership or you just see it affect everybody else? Like how is that affecting you? Because it's getting worse, I think.
It is getting worse. From projections, they're saying this last quarter is going to be worse than it was, all year. So going into next year, who knows what's going to happen, but it definitely affects all dealers. And being an independent dealer, what's happening is I'm having to fight against the larger companies that are having to shift to more used car inventory. So since I buy a lot of higher end vehicles, BMW, Mercedes, those sort of things, I'm competing with the new car franchise stores and they've got deeper pockets than I do.
Right.
So what's happening is the car pricing on the wholesale end is going up along with everyone else. So it is difficult, but I hate to say this, people are paying what we're asking.
Sure.
And until that stops, we'll still keep pushing along. I mean,
makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, so with the limited supply of vehicles in the new car and the used car market, people are buying cars because one, they obviously need the vehicle, but they're making a purchase based off of emotion and also fear that they won't be able to get something. So they're paying more, not that we're charging more, but we're paying more for the vehicles also. I hate to say it though, but this probably has been our most profitable year.
Yeah, I've seen it affect the rental car market. So I'm used to, I have status. So usually when I grab a car, it's usually a brand new car with a little miles. And I've been getting cars that they're still good cars. I look down and they're like 30, 40,000 miles, which is insane when you're dealing with Hertz or National Rent-A-Car.
Right. And last year they sold off all their inventory.
Yeah.
So all the rental car companies sold off their inventory. Me as a wholesaler, I've had a couple cars that I've actually sold to the rental companies, used cars that I've had on my lot that I may have ran back at the auction due to overage, and the purchaser was Enterprise.
Right.
So they can't get fleet deals right now.
Right.
There's no
cars.
So,
there's no cars. Yeah.
There's nothing for them to do except for go back out and repurchase cars that they sold.
You just said fleet, and maybe you can answer this question for me. When you look at the top selling vehicles, and they're always like the Ford F-150 and stuff, in that statistic, are they counting fleet sales?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought, because it's like, okay, they're selling 850,000 trucks. I don't see 850,000 new Ford F-150s. It's got to be fleet sales.
Right. Yeah, they're fleet sales. That's why if you remember back to the Ford Taurus.
Yeah.
It used to be one of the number one selling cars in America, but it was based off of majority fleet sales.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of those numbers that you get, but there's always more to it. Kind of like LeBron James has scored more points than Michael Jordan, so he's better, although he's played a cajillion more years. Sorry, it's just my little side thing on that.
I can definitely tell by the colors in the studio.
Yeah. So the studio is kind of Chicago Bullsy color. It's not by design, I don't think. But these colors, these black and reds and grays, just visually to me are better. Let's get to the random thought of the week. So I don't know if you have one. If you do, we'll get it out. It could be anything that you've experienced on the road. It could be anything you've experienced in a waiting room at a doctor's office. It's just a random thought of the week, and it's kind of fun. So as the studio guest, do you have one chambered?
I'm assuming I got one, but I don't know if it's a random thought or a pet peeve, but I hate the state of Arizona allowing large rigs, 18-wheelers, to ride in the left lane. I see it all the time when I'm traveling. Some states, it's illegal for an 18-wheeler to be in the far left lane before the HOV lane. I see it all the time in Phoenix. You've got a large 18-wheeler. They're in that lane, and I like to go fast, and they're in my way.
Now, hold on. So there is no there's no fast lane. That's what they tell us. But we all know that inside lane is in fact, slower traffic, keep right.
Exactly. So that's the premises of traffic on the interstate. If you're going slower, you keep to the right. If you're large trucks, you stay. If you've got 4 lanes of traffic, why do you need to be, and especially when there's no one to your right? That's the part that really bugs me.
That's a pet peeve, and that is a random thought.
And I've been working with that thought for about 3 weeks.
Right. Well, when you have one, let me know. I always have them. My thought is a little less cool because I don't want to necessarily attack people, but as someone who does a craft, the podcast, YouTube, whatever, when peers come up and people are going to hear this, and people are going to hear this who have said this to me, and they said, "Hey, Jay, how's the podcast?" It kind of frustrates me because my initial thought, and might be a little unfair, but this is my random thought. It's my thought. It's my show. Like, how about you listen to the podcast and you'll know how the podcast is going? I put little nuggets out there sometimes specifically for people who are listening. And it's just kind of a frustrating thing. So, I mean, it could be a pet peeve and it could be unfair to some people because I know that here's the thing. So when you do a craft, and I've talked about this before, it's like when you sell candy bars when you're a kid. You know, your parents are going to buy one. Your next door neighbors are going to buy one. Whoever your parents take to work is going to buy it. But once you get 2 and 3 blocks over, that's when they don't care about you. Either they want the candy or they don't.
Right.
So I don't expect everybody who knows me to consume my podcast. I don't expect everyone who knows me to watch my YouTube channel. But if you don't, and you're just trying to start a conversation, that's a sore spot. Because I'm not pulling down 50,000 downloads an episode. It's not. I'm still grassroots, but that's almost like, and maybe it's an unfair way. Tell me if I'm being unfair, but it's an unfair way of saying, well, gee, thanks for the support.
I love the show. I just tuned in. You know, I really just came into meeting you on social media maybe a few months ago. So at that point, knowing you had the podcast, I've checked it out. I listened to it. It's on Mondays, everybody, if you don't know. I check it in on my ride to work.
This one's dropping on Tuesday because of Labor Day.
So, yeah, I've got an hour drive. So I definitely like to listen to the podcasts. And I've got some other of my favorites that I divide each day. So Monday through Friday, I'd have certain shows I listen to, and yours has become one of them.
Well, I appreciate that. And I don't expect people to listen to every episode either, to be fair. I have some favorite shows, national shows, that I haven't listened to in a long time, months. But I have them auto downloaded and I do listen to them. So I do, I understand. But it's like, if you haven't listened to one in 6 or 7 months, maybe check in and listen to it.
Yeah, give it a like and comment.
Yeah, because those mean a lot. So you have a YouTube channel. We'll get you out of here on this. People want to follow you, they can follow you on Instagram at C8 Matrix. Unless you want them to also follow you at Drew Bunk. It's up to you.
Either one's good. C8 Matrix is going to be a lot more updates on the cars and the things that I'm doing as far as the car community goes. The other one's my personal page, kind of see my life and what we do, me and my wife. So,
and then you have Drew's Garage, which is the YouTube channel.
That is my YouTube channel, Drew's Garage. I have a very large garage. So it's not, physical garage, but because of all the cars that I go through, you know what I mean? So that's why I named it Drew's Garage. And yeah, I try to tend to do car reviews, basic stuff, and then I got the C8 and it just kind of went from there. So
yeah, and you go to Mexico every once in a while to try out the new cars.
Yeah, I'm right near the border.
Yeah, we are near the border.
So
we're right near the border. So he takes his cars down there and tries them out a little bit. So I urge you guys to go ahead and check that out. Drew, I want to thank you for coming by the studio and being a guest on the Hard Parking Podcast.
Jay, thanks for the shirt. Appreciate coming by, and thanks for having me on the show.
If you like what you guys heard today between myself and Mr. Drew, subscribe to the podcast. This is your first time listening. Then go tell a friend about it. Come back each week as we have a different show. I want to thank Right Honda out of Scottsdale, Arizona, higher quality detail out of Tempe, Arizona, boosterbath.com, foolonline.com, tonguetreats.com, Cell Shop Wireless Services, The Credit Mix, Patreon business supporter, Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida. If you are in a position, I fuck that up all the time. If you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, join the Patreon, patreon.com, HardParkingPodcast. Access to bonus audio and some swag. In fact, Mr. Drew got some swag today for coming in. What'd you get? You got a coaster, a sticker over there, a really cool hologram sticker?
Definitely got some things we're going to take advantage of. This will definitely come in handy.
The coasters always come in handy. Yeah, they always come in.
And I will sport this T-shirt. This is a very nice quality shirt.
Yeah,
I heard you talking about it, so I definitely, when no one had picked it up, I was like, well, we haven't really met till today. And so I'm like, I might qualify for this. Thank you.
You qualify for it. Yeah, that's a next level premium suede style shirt. So that's it's probably as soft a shirt as you're going to get. And that's a tearaway tag on there too.
Awesome.
So so it doesn't bother the back of your neck.
I love it. Here.
That's a pain in the ass. Oh,
the QR code.
Yeah, QR code takes you right to the website, or actually to the podcast host for now. And then special thanks to Right Honda for helping offset the cost on those shirts. I can't grow without you telling the world how great the show is. So let's do this. Let's grow this thing together. And hopefully you all had a good Labor Day. It's actually my 17-year wedding anniversary, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Now it's stripping time.
Shut up!
Hey, this is Levi Epps, hashtag Mr. Financial Freedom of The Credit Mix, here with a special offer for Hard Parking Podcast fans. If you've been living with less than perfect credit for having evictions, late payments, bankruptcies, doesn't matter what it is. If it's something that negatively impacts your credit score and you're not able to get approvals for certain things, or maybe you got to pay large deposits and high interest rates, we don't want that to be you anymore. We have a program that will legally get negative items off of your credit report and keep them off. And we have a special code for a free consultation to see if we can help you. Text HP Credit to 737-4CREDIT. That's HP Credit to 737-427-3348. Let's get you back on the road to financial freedom.
Are you tired of blowing out your back at the bathtub while washing your dog, or subjecting your canine to a water torture bath while leashed up to a post outside? Now there's a far more effective way to wash your pet while saving your back and keeping your dog happy. It's called Booster Bath, a portable bathtub on legs. Head over to boosterbath.com, one word, and pick one up. Available in 3 sizes, this tub system features a drain, a soap cubby, and water controlling wand. This tub conveniently breaks down to be stored when not in use. Want to save 10% on your first time purchase? Head over and sign up today to make that happen. boosterbath.com.